How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. I've been seeing a lot of people doing their 2027 or 2030 price targets for different stocks. Now, I want to do that with Bitcoin, and I'm going to do 2030 price targets. Of course, there are some disclaimers. I don't know the future. There's going to be a wide variety of different scenarios here, from the ultra bearish case to the ultra bullish case. And it's because so much can change in 7 years for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's only about 13, 14 years old now. So keep that in mind. And I will say too that this isn't going to be a super interactive, tons of different pictures coming up video. This is going to be just spreadsheet, which I love. If you want to just put in headphones, you don't even have to really watch too much. It will help a little bit, but I'm going to be walking through each of these different scenarios. Now, if you want one of these Bitcoin is Freedom hats, there are links underneath the video. And if you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you can see future videos just like this. Hit the like button, and let's get into it. So if you're watching this video, you probably are pretty bullish on Bitcoin. And I'll say you kind of have to be bullish if you're going to take into account some of these scenarios. I really like doing this exercise, writing down different criteria for the bullish case, the bearish case, and everything in between, because it gave me an idea of, what are some of the really negative things that could happen for Bitcoin, or some of the really bullish things. And we talk about this stuff a lot. We look at it on the channel, but it's good to be reminded of these things. And to be clear, this is 2030 Bitcoin price target. It can be 2029, 2028, 2031, just the cycle after this cycle, essentially. Now, we're going to be looking at 5 different scenarios, as I said, from ultra bearish to neutral to bullish to ultra bullish. Now, this neutral scenario is probably the most likely thing to happen. But let's start on this ultra bearish scenario. What is the price target? And to be clear, I don't think this is likely to happen. I'm not saying that this is likely. I'm not saying that's probable. I'm saying this is something that could happen, though. And this is not what I think, because I am bullish. I hold a pretty good sized position in Bitcoin. But ultra bearish scenario, Bitcoin's $100. And I'll tell you why. First of all, these are some of the criteria that we'll be looking at. Security of Bitcoin, how the economy is doing, innovation and adoption, and then big money flows, who's investing. So ultra bearish scenario, let's just take these one at a time here, and we'll start with the security aspect. So in this ultra bearish scenario where Bitcoin falls down to $100, first of all, we figure out Bitcoin is not immutable. It can be changed. The code can be changed. Somehow it breaks. There's downtime. Maybe there's not 21 million Bitcoin. Someone changes that, 51% attack. Or Satoshi is found and says he's dumping Bitcoin. It was all a joke in the first place. He doesn't believe in it. Or he's just going to sell a million Bitcoin on the open market, something like that. Some really edge case scenario. Bitcoin has been working really well so far, but we'd have to see that. And that would obviously drop the price a lot, right? If Satoshi was found, there'd be issues, people worried about his security, about the security of his Bitcoin, whether he's going to sell because he has a million Bitcoin. Or if we just found out this isn't as hard as people say, basically meaning there's not 21 million Bitcoin, that can be changed. There's going to be more inflation. There's something that we can't see, some kind of black swan event. From there, and I'm looking up here, this is the best place to look. Economy. World hits major depression. Like not just a recession, but a depression. Some kind of famine, economic disaster, world war collapses, asset prices. Probably not just Bitcoin, but a lot of different asset prices. The government continues to tighten and money supply tightens. Could be for any number of reasons. But basically, those are some of the different things that could be happening in the economy. I won't spend too long on it, but obviously that would send down the price of Bitcoin specifically and riskier assets in general. Next part is the innovation and adoption. No more adoption. No good apps are built on blockchain. Some other technology is found that's way better, faster, more secure. Something that was like some kind of upgrade where we just find out there's something much better. Like when we found out about Bitcoin, when someone created Bitcoin, but something else, something that we can't even foresee right now, and people just don't care about Bitcoin because it's not the best option anymore. And then in terms of big money flows, BlackRock was just hyping up Bitcoin to short it, for example. Something like that, where right now we do think a lot of large institutions are going to get into Bitcoin. But if we're in this ultra bearish scenario, it turns out BlackRock was just hyping it up to make money, short it down, make money on the short side. No real buying from anyone big. Publicity kind of goes out the door. No one really talks about it anymore, that kind of thing. That's the ultra bearish scenario. I don't think that's likely to happen, but there's a percent chance of anything, right? There's always a chance that something like that could happen. So I think it's worth talking about. And again, that's like the worst case scenario for me. Again, I'm not saying that this is like a 20% chance of happening, but maybe it's 0.5%, maybe it's 1%, something like that. Or one of these things could happen. Bearish scenario. Security. No real security problems. Still 21 million Bitcoin, and Satoshi's never found. So this is basically just what it is now. And I should give the price of the bearish scenario. I think the bearish scenario is about today's price, $25,000. Basically, we just go sideways for the next 7 years. So no real security problems. Again, like I said, nothing that occurs where we find out that more Bitcoin is going to be made or mined or anything like that, or someone changes the code. Satoshi never found. And again, I realize at this point, a lot of this stuff we don't even think can happen. We don't think that there can be more than 21 million Bitcoin. But again, fringe case something happens, that could be an issue. Economy. World hits depression or major recession, something bad in the next few years. Government cuts back in a major way to get debt to GDP under control, basically a dead decade for all assets. So basically you can invest, but asset prices don't really go anywhere. Innovation and adoption, small piece of news here and there. No major countries adopt, no real great use case for anything different than we have now. No popular apps using blockchain, that kind of thing. Small money flows, or big money flows. Small players here and there buy speculative positions, but no big asset managers, not like BlackRock or Fidelity. Goes out of style to invest in Bitcoin because there hasn't been any real alpha. So people don't talk about it. People aren't excited to invest in it. It's thought of as gold or something like that, where only old people do it, but old people don't want to do it. So it's just kind of this really bearish scenario. I don't think this is likely either. I'd say there's under a 5% chance of this happening, but I have to throw it out there. Neutral scenario. Now we're getting into the more fun stuff. So stick with me here. Okay, neutral scenario. Still no security problems. Still 21 million Bitcoin. Satoshi never found. Nothing is an issue there. And really, that's going to be the scenario for all these other scenarios too. I just had to include it because security is an issue with Bitcoin. That's one of the things that solves. So if that ever goes away, that's going to be a big problem. Economy. What's the M3 money supply look like? M2 money supply. Small recession, like next year or two. Then back to a growth economy. World continues printing and handing out money, which is basically what it's been for the last 20, 30 years, right? So because of that, people want to invest in other ways, so they invest in Bitcoin. And I'm doing a really bad job of this. So let's show the price target for this neutral scenario, $400,000. I'll tell you why that is in a second. But we have 5 to 10 small to medium companies accept Bitcoin as legal tender. Small countries are adding it to their balance sheet. So we've already had a couple countries accept Bitcoin as legal tender. I think that is probably going to continue. Small countries add to their balance sheet too. Maybe El Salvador starts adding, and they pretty much are. They've been buying Bitcoin. I guess they already have been. I say pretty much have, but let's say some other small countries do as well. I think that's likely. And honestly, I think the neutral scenario or the normal scenario, I don't even know how likely this is. I think I'm sandbagging a bit here in the price and what's going to happen over the coming years because I am bullish on Bitcoin. This is still great price appreciation. I think a lot of us would be happy with 15x their asset price for a major asset that they're invested in. But still, I think that we could do even better than this. Big money flows. BlackRock and Fidelity get a spot ETF, but neither push it much. They don't include the ETFs or spot Bitcoin or anything in retirement plans. to get small investments. Bitcoin gets small investments from big companies, maybe some bigger companies like Tesla add it, but not very much, that kind of thing. Then let's get into the more bullish scenario. I'm going to do this right this time. Let's look at the price target first. And we have a $800,000 Bitcoin price. Now, the reason I said neutral was 400,000 is because that's about 2/3 gold's market cap. I think if we hit these things, that's pretty likely. That would put us around I believe it's right around an $8 trillion market cap 7 years from now. That also is showing that we could go up about 3x in the next cycle and then 2x or so after that. And that's from the previous cycle high of about $66,000. So if we 3x, that goes up to about 200,000 in the next cycle. Then the cycle after that would be another 2x, and that is about half this bullish case. The bullish case scenario, we're going to go through some of the different things we'd have to do, but this is basically hitting gold's market cap if gold appreciates from now to 2030 by about 3%. So it's basically getting to gold's market cap. Now, in this scenario, as I said in the last couple, it also assumes no security problems, still 21 million Bitcoin, Satoshi never found, all that kind of stuff. The economy. Small recession or no recession, nothing lasting or too deep. The economy gets back to a growth economy. World keeps printing and handing out money. So very similar to the scenario beforehand, just in the neutral scenario. However, now we have more countries adopting. So not just small to medium, but now also small to large countries start accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, I'm not saying that they have to get up to this price, but that could be something that happens. 10 to 20 small countries add to their balance sheet, similar to gold. That's a big thing. So if countries that have hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars start adding to their balance sheet, treating it as a really hard currency that they want to hold on to, that could obviously push up the price pretty drastically because those would be large buys. Even if they just start buying 100 million at a time, 100 million a year, if we get multiple countries doing that, that's going to add a lot of buying pressure over time. Okay, and then in this scenario, we're going to say BlackRock and Fidelity get their spot ETF. They push it hard in media, educate older buyers. They include some in target date retirement funds, and they get investments from big companies on their balance sheet. Again, this is assuming it grows to be about gold's market cap. So I think this would be really bullish. Really, this is what I see as so bullish, that they would include it in some target date retirement funds. Because that means people will be buying week after week, month after month, year after year. They're not even thinking about it. They're just putting money away. It's taking Bitcoin off of the circulating supply or the short-term holders, and they're just buying for 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line. They're not worried about it. They're just buying. So I think that would be ultra bullish, and I think that could happen. I think that's where we're going if BlackRock and Fidelity get spot ETFs approved, and they really do put some towards retirement instead of just bonds. And then ultra bullish scenario, I could go more bullish. This is not like the best case scenario I've ever heard, but this is pretty bullish. $1.6 million, basically doubling gold's market cap if gold appreciates by 3% a year, or if gold appreciates by 14% a year because people are turning towards hard money after a lot of money printing. Well, that would be the same market cap then as Bitcoin at 1.6 million. So again, no security problems. Small to no recession, back to a growth economy. World keeps on printing and handing out money and balloons global money supply at an alarming rate. So if Bitcoin goes up too fast, if it goes up to millions and millions of dollars, there might be a red flag that something has broken in the economy, and it might not actually be good unless you hold a lot of Bitcoin, but it might be bad for the rest of the world. Many countries accept Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, again, this isn't something that necessarily has to happen, but that could push Bitcoin's price up pretty drastically. Many countries add to their balance sheet. I think that would be huge. Again, if the U.S. came out and said that they are going to be adding a couple $1 billion to their balance sheet, or they're going to add back the US dollar 1 or 2, 3%, something like that, could be huge. Treated as a preferred asset for trading globally instead of USD. So if we start moving Bitcoin as the global reserve currency, or even if it's not legitimately that way, but it's just heading that way, I think that would be ultra bullish as well. And people will see that and start buying more and more Bitcoin. And then final thing, big money flows, BlackRock and Fidelity get spot ETF. They push it hard in the media, educate older buyers, people with lots of money, include in most target date funds in addition or instead of bonds. So we've seen BlackRock before publish a study, or a couple people at BlackRock publish a study talking about how if you want optimal returns, you should have a large portion of your money in Bitcoin. So something like that. Investments from big companies on balance sheets. So again, Tesla, Apple, Google, Berkshire, all these companies start adding it to their balance sheet. And you might say, well, Berkshire's never going to do that. Keep in mind that the two people that hate it the most there are very old. They probably won't be around by 2030. Hopefully they are, but still, it could happen. Again, this is assuming that it doubles the size of gold's market cap if gold only grows at 3% annually, or it's the same as if the gold market cap grew by 14% annually. So let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. What do you think is the most likely scenario? What do you think Bitcoin's price will be at? Again, if I had to put a number, I want to be more conservative, but I'd say $400,000 is probably more likely than 25 or even 800,000. Part of this changes on sentiment, keep that in mind, and part of it is just that, again, I am trying to be conservative. I don't want to piss anyone off, but that is still a great return if you're buying right now. That is, if you're bullish on Bitcoin and you think and you have a decent sized position, $400,000 is going to make you really wealthy. Again, but let me know your thoughts on that underneath the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, what do you think would push up the price or push down the price? Kind of worst case scenario and best case scenario down below in the comment section. And I'll see you in the next one.